Hi everyone, welcome to the Campfire. Once again, you might notice that we've been let off the leash here. You've got myself, Blankspace, and our very special guest, Poppy Dementia, coming all the way from the Desolation server and Guild Wars 2. And we have no Pseudo. Either she's been hit by a truck down by the strain, or possibly she's not feeling too well. So if you all want to go onto the Twitter, because that's my communication media of choice, and send her all your love, hopefully that will help her get better. Either that or prescription drugs, they could work too. How are you doing this week, Blank?
Doing pretty good. Lots of exciting stuff happening in the gaming community right now. Pretty pumped about that. Got myself a new chair, and excited to be here and get to put old Poppy on the campfire and roast him for a little bit. So.
Are you plopping your Poppy on the new chair that you're swinging on?
I'm swinging him all right.
And that would be Poppy. Poppy, as I said, joined us to talk about server community, specifically within MMOs, but in gaming in general. We're going to have a chat about server community, if it matters, how to build a good server community, and in terms of that, I think it's probably worth our guest telling us a bit about himself. So, Poppy, where are you from, what do you do, and how did you end up sitting beneath me and Blank?
Well, yeah, I'm from the Netherlands. What I now do, I work under an artist and at the center for the government, working in some gardens and stuff. Just chilling out most of the time, and when it rains, 3 days, awesome. Yeah, how I got into Desolation, I first started in Guild Wars 2 in Far Shiver Peaks, and eventually I got through guilds and stuff, and I ended up in, boom, Deso, with a guild that has an all-round strong presence in the game itself. And yeah, eventually I met the guild that I'm now in, Candy Shop, awesome guild. I need to make some commercial about it. And yeah, I have a great time there. Everything's quite relaxed and totally love it.
Fantastic. Yeah, so, what we normally do at this stage of the show, since we're just starting, apart from what we normally do, is we normally say to our guests, tell us 2 truths and 1 lie about yourself. So, Poppy, go ahead and tell us 2 truths and 1 lie, and we'll have to guess what we think is the lie.
Oh, well, I will make it quite difficult for you guys. Be ready. Well, I'm a yellow banana. I want to rule the world. I am totally insane when I command. And when people start to get what I'm going to, they will also get as insane as I am. And then I feel terrible for them. Start guessing.
Dude, those were
this is a struggle.
I've got to say, that was some slack lying. That's pretty bad.
Nope, it's they are all in a way. It depends how you look at it.
In a way, you're a yellow banana. Which bit of you is a yellow banana? In fact, don't tell me which bit of you is a yellow banana.
Don't want to know that one. Nope.
Well, I'm not going to say anything. But that one is even more true than the others.
Okay, right. I'm swiftly moving on from that comment because I think this could end up going somewhere we don't want it to. With hindsight being 2020, just describe a decision for us that you've made for your Guilder community you felt was appropriate at that moment in time, but with time and more hindsight, you would go back and change.
Well, the only thing that I wanted to go back on was, yeah, starting. I was quite a big PvE player at the time, and I also chose with my older guild to focus on that. But the only thing I want to take back is starting earlier with World for World, and that's for sure. If I played it earlier, I would have been earlier with awesome guys and having more great experiences. Yeah.
Was that do you feel that was part of a decision you made as part of the game, or was that just kind of like did you not know where you wanted to go when you started playing Guild Wars? Did you
Uh,
not? Did you just kind of like fall into it and not know how to look for a guild, or?
first made a guild with some friends of mine, and yeah, eventually all of them quit it. And I'm the kind of guy that always like to play with others, or else it starts to be very boring. So yeah, the PvE guild that I was in first, I eventually after enough PvE, I was like, I want to go world for world. But yeah, later on they were like, we don't want it. And yeah, if I played it earlier, then yeah. But
I,
I
I see.
was
So the
focused on PvE
primary
first.
problem. Sorry. I see. So the primary problem here is Guild Wars 2 players go, nah, quite a lot.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Nah.
Yeah.
Um, well, looking back on things, what we normally do as well is ask, what's one of the most memorable events in your guild or community that has given you the greatest sense of accomplishment to date, and don't make it a PvE one.
No, nobody's. This is something that was even above me in matter of speaking, because the biggest achievement was after I started alliance meetings again after it broke off, and that everybody came together again the last week of the tournament, that it was like or become second or become way lower, and people were tired of the tournament. People were like, oh my god, we we cannot go on. But me and a couple of other commanders were like, guys, we can still do it. And eventually everybody came at a point, all different ideas, all different guilds. They become at a point that everyone in a way of speaking became one. The goal is enjoying it, but in such a way that through enjoying it we were winning this week for us then. And in the end we became second because of all the different ideas that we just put it aside, our ideas, and just did go for the goal and ultimate fun. And that ultimate fun was getting second at that part. And it
So
was after such a long time that it happened.
So this was the Guild Wars 2 World v World tournament, yeah?
Yeah,
And
the
this
second
was
one.
Yeah, and that's the one that's just been now. And Desolation came, what did they come, second in the EU?
Yeah, nobody expected it.
And that was just down to the server pulling together and playing together, yeah?
Yeah.
And that kind of leads us on into the survival guide, into our next topic. And what we're going to be looking at today is we're going to be looking at server identity, what it is, how you build it, and why it's important, and if it is actually important these days. As Poppy said, he had a great sense of server identity when his server in Guild Wars 2 pulled together and achieved a goal way above that which everyone expected. In a lot of MMOs, and MMOs specifically, we find that player population is split up by server. That's something that's come from the technical limitations of that sort of game type, but what we find now is that allows those groups of players within those limitations of your server shard to build communities, to reach bigger goals. And what I probably want to do is ask Don why he thinks server identity is important.
Well, I guess I would like to answer the question before that.
Sure.
What is server identity? Back in the day, oh my god, if I start every answer with that, I may not like myself for the rest of the day.
What I'm going to do is we're going to get you a cane so that you can bear it up and you can go, in my day! In my day!
No worries, Don. I have reserve.
Oh! The man has a cane.
When you first started playing, whatever it was, your server community organically was massively important to you. Because that was your call to arms. You were part of a guild that fit you as a gamer, but on your server there was server pride. You may be server 5th in the PvE or PvP, but you were still part of that server. And it organically, just because it's where you logged in, whether you liked the name, Eventually, they became ranked. This one is the top one. This is the next. This is the next. This battle group is the next. But server identity is something that every person or most guilds, when they're picking them now, let's back this up. Originally, you didn't get to pick. There was no launch list. There was just, it's out, pick one, play, and then you found, your organizations. Nowadays, it's like, okay, which one sounds the coolest? Who do we think is going to be there? What kind of people are going to be there? Well, it's a whole process. And originally, it used to be organic, and now it's a very thought out, process of where are we going to go? Why are we going to, let's say, the Widow server? Why are we going there? Who do we expect to go there? Who do we expect to face? Who else can we find for allies there? It's now a whole process. But it did originally just happen. You just picked one of the names, and then eventually later on you'd server transfer, you'd go somewhere else. So I think it's important to say that throughout gaming history, it was something that was just given to you, and then you kind of became a part of, and either stayed or left. Now it's a whole process. So I guess we can start digging into why does it happen, why is it so important, and where does that identity actually come from?
Do you find that server identity though that you find as a whole process now for you particularly, Don? Do you find that that's because you've become more organized and goal focused, whereas like for example, Poppy, when you started Guild Wars 2, did you even look at servers, or did you just pick one and then your experience just grew from that?
In a way, yeah. With my friends, we picked one that we were like, well, most Dutch people are going there. That's why we picked it. But eventually, a lot of Dutch people were moving towards Desolation.
So what you've actually said, you've actually completely blown what I said out of the water and backed up Don in the respect that it wasn't a case that you picked a server just because and then just rolled any server. You picked a server specifically because a community of people that you thought you would play well with were going into a particular server, and that's one thing that can build server identity. Server identity, when a lot of people start to look at servers, they have to understand what type of server they go for. A lot of games will not just use technical delimitations now for servers, it will be things like the type of playstyle that they try to encourage on a server. So you have language divisions, you have player types, that being like PvP, PvE, roleplay. Hell, one day I'm sure we'll see an entire server of econ PvPers, and they will just you'll just have mass lag at the trading post. It can vary from game to game how these servers are divided, but that's certainly something that you have to be aware of, is that these different servers will have different sets of communities on them, and it's something you have to bear in mind. I mean, how did you guys, Don, how did you go about deciding on a server with pre-launch, for example, in a game, before we go into things like how to build server communities?
Sure. Usually now there's a process where you're taking a bunch of different variables depending on your own community or organization, guild, clan, where you're going to go. For MMOs, a lot of it is who else is going to be there? Are they competition? Are they going to stimulate the economy? Are we in good with them? Will they work with us to do things? So you have all of these variables. For things like first-person shooters, it's a little different though. For them, it's like, can we get the sponsor for this server? Can we get a bigger, upgrade if we do this LAN tournament and have our own pub to run things on? So within different genres, the server community is very, very different. Some people, if you happen to be East Coast players and you have your scrimmages at, let's say 7 to 9 Eastern, you don't want to be on a West Coast server because people are still coming home. So the geographical location can sometimes decide and dictate where you're going to be. So server identities, while synergize very well with MMOs because of the community aspect, it's still also for any of these other games. I heard about some folks that were playing Terraria, and they wanted their server hosted in a specific area because they all lived on the West Coast. So I guess I would actually throw that in there as one of the variables I didn't think of.
Mhm.
Outside of MMOs, sometimes geographically, just for your latency, is kind of an issue for folks. And I honestly had never thought about that, but now it's kind of a duh. I'm not, my friends in Europe, if there's segregation, they're going to play on a European server instead of a North American server, unless there's some sort of contingency, alliance or something like that. So I just surprised myself. Ha.
As in, well, we all learn a little something. Don even learns a little something from himself now and then. Taking that and going off on a slight tangent as it is, what Blank has identified is that server communities tend to have a reason for gathering towards each other, whether it be things like I've said, like language, like play style, like content stream variants, like geography. What I tend to find is that the sort of server communities that Afterlife go for tend to be, we tend to move towards server communities that are very much PvP focused, and we tend to look for other groups of players that want to play on that. That means that we do a lot of preparation work before we move into a server, particularly with reaching out to different communities on the forums, on Twitter, on Facebook, and speaking to people that we know within the community. I'm quite privileged in that I have a reasonable list of contacts now, different guilds that play different games, and being able to go to their going to guild websites is a great source of information from other communities that may be playing the sort of game you're looking to move into. If you move in with a group of players, then it's a great way of starting to make contact with other groups of players, even prior to going into a community. But I think from moving into deciding on a server, we kind of need to look at what happens when you move into a server. Poppy, you're quite well established in the Desolation server on Guild Wars. What do you guys do, or what do you find that new guilds do when they tend to come onto the Desolation server? How do you encourage them to introduce themselves, and how do you go ahead and try and pull them into the community rather than just being this whole bunch of players just all over here and they don't know what to do or where to go?
Well, the answer for me is it's quite simple. At least that's how I always did it. I just directly call one of the guild members or one of the people that are new, and if they have trouble with things like English, I always get somebody that speaks the language for communication later on, because our main language is English. So we have also Russian players, we have all types of players there nowadays. Korean guild is there also nowadays, so that's awesome. But English, not so well, so I get more people that know multiple languages to ask them and tell them a bit about it. I've also have some links on the DesoSpeak forum itself to have a simple course of learning English for the people, and and then they also try to get themselves into the English language, and they introduce themselves just on the DesoSpeak forum openly, because I always tell them, no matter where you come from, everybody is welcome. I mean, there's no must, there's always a may.
So your big thing about inclusion within a server is you've found from your experience that language barriers can be a huge problem, and having the facility to allow other people and other guilds and other groups of players who are coming into the server to be able to contact someone that they can communicate with, so that they can then find their way around the server. You find that makes a huge difference?
Yeah, because it makes a lot of miscommunication. It makes it alright, and this also decreases a lot of possible drama that can be created because of miscommunications. I know a fun story. We have the time for that? It's a short one.
Yeah, go.
Okay, well, I know a fun story. My guild, me, were running, and yeah, we were taking off. We had our time. We were like, tight, bad. So I told somebody of another guild that yeah, some of our guys are moving towards another border, and in the end, he only caught that in English that we were moving servers. I don't know how I did that, but yes, that kind of miscommunication can happen sometimes. Yeah, the day after we lost our asses off because of this, but it's a good example of what can be decreased if people are learning the main language of a community like this one.
Mhm. So moving over to Blank, I want to find out what Blank thinks is one of the main things that an existing server community can do to try and welcome and integrate new players and new guilds coming into a server, because that's based on what Poppy said, that can be a big deal for a guild moving over, is finding that a server is completely unwelcoming, especially when you send people over to scout a server, or you want to say pop onto the new Terraria server you've found in the West Coast in your time zone, and you don't know how to actually go ahead and engage with them. How can a server make itself more welcoming to new players?
It's gonna have another blankism here. We used to call this the candy.
Back in my day.
No, we used to call this the candy stripe trade chatters. Those folks were like, somebody comes in and they're not trolling and they're like, hey, I need help, or I'm looking for a guild that helps new people. We used to have not just as part of the recruitment team, we had people that were, oh man, more patient than me, who would like help people and bring them into various degrees. We used to call them the candy stripers, or the trade chat stripers. Hang out, find people, try using typing in chat. If chat wasn't good, invite them into TeamSpeak or your voiceover, and hey man, what are you trying to do? And then giving them some tools. Here's a website for armor. Here's a website for crafting. Here, come over to my my farm and create whatever. There are people out there, and if you have them in your organization, you're lucky that love to just help people. They're not looking to hardcore do anything. They're there for that social experience, and that really is the best, especially for those new folks that are like, I'm brand new. Instead of being like, oh man, I hate when people are like, yo bro, use Google. I'm like, I got a computer too, jackass. I could easily go to Google. Why don't you just tell me the easy answer? Hopefully to combat those sort of people, you have those trade chat, I don't know what you want to call them, white knights, whatever you would like to call them, that are there to be just helpful. And I definitely recommend, if you have a couple in your organization, to deploy them. Let them, give them their own little channel in TeamSpeak and let them help out, because they may, even if they don't join your organization, they will have a higher regard for who you are and what you do, just by being like, oh man, I remember when I first joined the server, I hung out with, Afterlife, and they helped me with my PvP. I realized it wasn't for me, but they're really good guys. That brings communities together, for sure.
I think that's something that a lot of people don't necessarily understand. With MMOs specifically, and I'm going to look on MMOs because I've got more experience there. With MMOs specifically, what you'll find is that on any server, the majority of your population is going to be people that are casual players. They're there for a social. They're playing an MMO because they want to be social with people, and that's the primary reason for it. In fact, to some extent, it does apply to things like Minecraft servers, FPSs, and stuff as well. People want to play to be social at the end of the day, and that's the first thing they'll look for. If they can't find an open line of communication, either with players when they log in, or with a forum attached to it. So a forum's a great thing to have. You have a server forum, people are going to look on that. They're going to try and talk to you. If you close your server forum off to just people who are your closed server group, then if there's no public chat on that, people aren't going to be able to get an idea of what your server identity is, what you like to do, what your events are, and how you talk to each other. So having those open line of communication with the rest of the server and with the rest of the other servers in the game, or with anyone else that's wanting to play, it's imperative, whether that be in-game in trade chat or whether it be having a forum that people can see, then that's great. I'd also say getting that information out there. So if you're looking to do things like get an active community, get lots of people coming in, using utilities like, for example, in MMOs, GuildX, which is a database of guilds and communities within servers. It doesn't just extend to guilds, it extends to alliances and servers, and people can see what type of players are on a server. They can see how they can interact with the server. It's a great way of getting that information out there. So have that openness and understand that people want a social experience first, so have people in place to do that, especially when you've got a server community to build. A lot of servers that I've found in MMOs also specifically run casual guilds for bringing new players in. There's a lot of competition for new servers now to get people to come over to their servers. That's due to, well, as we've said, server identity has some level of competitiveness in it, be it getting the first kill, having server pride, playing Realm v Realm, being the one set of people who host that big-ass guild that take down that giant boss once a week repeatedly. There's a lot of pride involved in that, and the people who are going to be your most hardcore players are going to be the ones that are going to be most loyal to you, and they're going to be the ones that enjoy their experience the first time they log in. So having those open lines of communication, having structures in place, i.e. like forums, like even events, and we'll get onto that in a minute, having those sort of guilds to help bring people into the community, understand it, and improve themselves is a massive boon. What I'd like to get into is a little more of a focused point on what kind of things build server identity, because we've got a number of different games, and within, as I say, I'm going to stick with MMOs because that's what I've got most experience in, and it's where I feel this kind of synergizes well. I wanted to look at what sort of things build server identity. The reason being that we've said there's a number of different types of server, be them language-based servers, playstyle servers, but servers, they do a lot of things to build identity in themselves. I'll throw some things out there. You've got guilds like Gasioch over in Sanctum of Ral and Guild Wars, who we have on now and again. We've had Fogorea from Gasioch on a couple of times, and the Gasioch guys, they run events that span across their server. They run PvE events. The guys over in Desolation down there that Poppy are on, they're very heavily into the World v World, and they run events. Poppy, you guys run events in World v World on a regular basis. What sort of things do you do to build that server identity? Do you run events particularly to do that, or is it more focused on the goal of winning that week's World v World, or does it serve a bit of both?
Well, yeah, at this moment we always did World for World events then, but we are also in the future, that's something I'm also going to say, we're also planning to do server-wide events later on for the bigger part of the community, but for now, yeah, we started off with getting the guilds more trusted towards each other, and this way we did open guild raids, as people call them. In a way, they are open World for World events for the people to get to know each other and get to trust each other. And this way, you create a name after a while. People start working together. At the same time, having good discussions with each other, even on the map, and making jokes on TS and having fun with it. And this way, it keeps growing and growing. And yeah, that's at least how I saw how it happened.
And you find that what you're doing, that's working towards, you said earlier on that the Desolation was really successful in having a great placing in World v World during the last Guild Wars tournament for World v World. Do you feel that meeting those goals and having that success builds a stronger server as well? Is it just about having fun, or is successfully meeting those goals that you set for yourself as a server, does that build a stronger server as well?
Well, our main end goal, and no matter the success or anything, I mean, most of the people are now on vacation, they're chilling out, and they are not even playing, but our end goal is fun. And everybody has their own idea of fun, but yeah, the thing like the tournament, everybody had the same idea about the fun. The win coming that far is our way of having fun at the time, but for now, having fun is chilling out and just enjoy the game. Go for it, guys. Talk with your buddies of other guilds and chill out. Do some events with each other. If you have an idea, go to Tomoko or Zhal, or tell anybody else of the admins. They will put up something on the calendar. Go for it. That's what we are doing mostly now, just chilling out. People that still want to go for PPT, be my guest. I will be joining you. I will be having a lot of fun with you. And that's what we are still going for. Next tournament, we will be probably going for the high win of fun, of course, the action, the thrill of it. But for now, we are just like always for the fun as an end goal with our own idea behind it.
See, what I found, and I don't know about you, Blank, but what I found is back in my day, what I found was when some of the strongest server identity I found was focused around server pride, and that was actually when servers had a particular goal to meet, be it in downing a PvE boss first, but more in my experience when we had factional content and we had factional PvP. And we had to have hundreds of players coordinating with each other, and we had complex systems set up in place. And the alliances that were built to meet that goal were stronger than anything I've ever experienced since then. Having content and having a goal in game, I actually found bred a requirement for server unity, and actually bred a stronger server than I've been able to find since. I don't know what your feelings on the matter are, Mr. Writing on his pad.
PvP
Exactly.
equals conflict. Conflict equals server identity. Why do people know Tichondrius from World of Warcraft? It wasn't because they had, they housed the number ones in the world. Nope. It's because they had the strongest and hardest battle group to get into, and the social scale for PvPers was, oh, you got your gladiator on some low pop crap battleground, nobody cares, no respect, whatever. You got your 2K plus on Tyke on Battleground 9. There's some respect. You played against some of the best folks. I don't want to say that PvE doesn't equal conflict, but PvE is not versus other people, so the conflict is not generated between me and you or me and Poppy, and we can generate that towards other folks. It's conflict that we generate together. PvE is what we're race. We're literally running marathons to kill something first, and then be like, I got it first. That's it. Like it's a race and it's over. With PvP, for server identity, it continues as long as we continue to engage with each other. If I look at Poppy and I'm like, I'm not coming to Friday night fights, it's like, oh well, that stinks. I break it off. However, most people don't do that. PvPers are like, dude, I'll be there. Shit, I'm getting out of work early just to make sure I can be there to start it up. Instead of it, and I really feel that conflict is generates a lot more fun for folks. So, again, in my opinion, the server identities that are the strongest are built on PvP. Just my opinion.
I'd fully agree, and this is the sort of time where we really need a Pseudo to chime in with their PvE Care Bear nonsense.
Well, I really feel that when you're racing for PvE, it's not about the race, it's about just, not everybody wants to put band-aids on their nipples to win a marathon. Some people just want to enjoy the walk outside. Is that good? I think that's good enough.
That is absolutely 100% fantastic. That is going on YouTube right now. I fully agree though. From a PvP guild perspective, the strongest memories I've got, in fact, the memories I still go back to, are the
Yeah.
ones from Aeon. When I mean, Guild Wars is great, great memories, but those are the first sort of really big factional server identity experiences I have of a server that pulled it together, brought it from nowhere. A lot like what Poppy's had with Desolation, coming from back from where people didn't expect them to really killing it. And World v World it's a PvP focused environment, and it's where people work together. It's where they've got large groups, and that PvP factional content. It's definitely this where you build those memories with people. It's where you end up going back to and looking at it and going, back in my day, this was when it was right. And server identity is a lot easier when you've got a common goal, and PvP does give you a common goal. It's a very simple common goal of killing the other player or capping the other fort and killing the other people. Whereas the PvE race to some people is extremely focused and it's extremely competitive. But your PvE race is generally going to be they're going to be your 1%ers. And the server pride's going to fall on those 1%ers. You're going to find that with with large-scale PvP action and factional content, you're going to find that there's a lot more people playing it and a lot more people involved in that. But
I wanted to throw something in here. I actually was reading an article, I think it was just this week, that, and it came from, I believe it came from Lotro, where they said that they started taking polling numbers, one of their, I think, marketing folks, and had looked at that PvE racers are a lot smaller. And ACAC actually said something. It says conflict does not require PvP. Take Wildstar's Malgrave event. It's a different type of conflict, and I want to be very clear. When folks are playing PvE, the analogy that I'm using is a race. The reason I say it's a race because they are fighting against something that is static, and there may be different combat things that may change every week, but it is a static thing. Once that is down, you've achieved it, you've accomplished it. If I am doing open world PvP versus Poppy, this week I may win. I might come out on top, and I might have to wait 3 weeks to see him again. This is not a static event. It is not once I reach that, that's it. I can face him in structured PvP and lose rating, and then the next time beat him. The conflict is generated between two opposing forces instead of one racing to beat something and then have that claim. It's a timestamp. Mm-hmm. As soon as you accomplish it, you're good. With PvP, the only timestamp is when you decide to disengage. Like, I reached 2,500 rating, I'm done, I don't want to do anymore. Or we reached #1 server in EU for 10 weeks in a row. We're going to take a break. When you decide to disengage with your content, you will. Most people that are doing PvE will change their pacing, they'll change how hardcore they do it, but it's still a timeline. As soon as you beat that boss, you've achieved that goal, and you automatically are disengaged. At that point, it's farm status.
Yeah.
Go on, Poppy.
Yeah, I also come mostly from an PvE type-ish environment from different games, and in Guild Wars 2 it was like for me the first game that I was really into PvP, like World for World, and I need to say the only reason why I still play it is because both the community and that World for World exist there. That's the only reason why I'm still playing it, while I was first from a PvE environment.
Well, hopefully that's an example of a great server community, and you guys have gone through some pretty harsh times over in that server, and you're doing, I'd say you're doing pretty well these days. What I want to look on though is I actually want to have a look at something that is tending to happen now in games more and more, how it impacts server identity and how it to some extent undermines the ability of servers to build a community based on simply where they log into. When players log in, when they choose a server, they'll generally find that they get some level of familiarity, so they'll get the same players they'll see when they're running around, they'll get the same groups that they'll have doing particular dungeons. You'll see the same guilds or the same raids going through Realm v Realm at the same time. Both a number of things will cause that, like we've said, with geography, with content streams, things like that. But games these days have tended to move away from the traditional server infrastructure. We're now seeing the introduction of things like the mega server, like instance phasing. Yep, I see a shudder there from Poppy. And that tends, what we find is that tends to undermine that level of familiarity. Communities are built around some level of familiarity. You don't have a guild where people just flip in and out. You never know who you've got. You never tend to see a community that doesn't know who its raid commander is. You don't tend to see those sort of things go on. You don't get that level of randomization. And I think it's something that we really need to tackle. Poppy, you've seen the introduction of the mega server in Guild Wars. You've seen things like the Edge of the Mist server that allow people to just pop on casually to randomly do World v World type content. Have you found that that has had any influence, especially from a game that started with a very limited server structure and now has the mega server moving into it? Have you found that's influenced the community? Has it diluted it? Has it made it weaker or stronger?
Well, in both aspects, it depends your view on it. I will start with the negative part of it. Negative parts, things like Edge of the Mist and stuff, they just, they brought a lot of PvE people into World. But at the same time, those guys only think, oh, yeah, we're only doing PvD here, it's farm time, let's go for it. And that's the only thing they mostly are doing there. There are exceptions, like a couple of commanders that I know, they're like, let's crick up a high level here and let's go for it. That's how they are doing it. But at the same time, same goes for the mega servers. A lot of people that are almost close to pulling to us, they are getting pulled away sometimes, but at the same time, when they see us running and they get interested, nowadays we're getting a bit more of a game. We're getting more guilds into the community itself. But they see us running of the time. They see us how close we are, even in the mega server thing. So they eventually also choose us. So it can go both ways for everybody. It depends how you use this to your advantage.
So do you feel that the introduction of the mega server system do you feel it's undermined the PvE server identity such that people are looking for that within another element of the game now?
Yeah, sorry, my phone.
You turned your phone off during a stream, sir. Alright, no more from him. He's completely unprofessional. Go on. Mega servers and instance, and do they destroy community? Do they destroy communities? Are they home wreckers? Are instances home wreckers?
It's more like how you deal with it as a community. Are you willing to adapt, or are you holding yourself to the old ideas then? If you are holding yourself to the old ideas, there's a bigger chance you in the end will get destroyed by it. But if you adapt to the...
Throw it out the window! Out the window!
Throw it on the floor, stomp on it.
Adapt to the new situation, you adapt and you grow even 2 times stronger than before. It really depends how your look on it is. Yeah, most of the time I'm the positive type of guy, so I see the advantage in almost everything that happens. I don't like, in a personal opinion, don't like the mega servers. They ruin quite a lot of the pride, because even some of the PvE players had a lot of server pride that way, and that's getting less nowadays. So yeah, that part is getting harder, but at the same time, people that are seeing us more are also more interested at the same time. So
without jumping straight to Blank, let me just ask you then, because I've got a reasonable level of knowledge on Guild Wars. So what about the communities that run They say the Tequatl Tackle Squad, the group of players that take down the big raid boss every single night of the week, and they make it easy for people to just join up, go with them, jump into a map on a mega server instance, and just go and take that down. They allow people to easily access content. The mega server lets that sort of instancing lets people easily access content. Is that not a good thing that lets people actually get into communities by communities hosting events that take advantage of that, or would you say that that's more? Would you say that's tending towards what you've said about adapting to the situation rather than moving away from it? And is that probably an example of what you're talking about?
Well, the thing like the Qualter thing.
Yeah.
Before we start about it, I need to say, people always got taxied towards this, or they guessed Desolation, because Desolation had the best PvE team all the time. So they were always like, oh god, they were always like, they were always like that. So at that part, there's no difference. It just makes it easier at this time for them to join, but no real difference there.
So Don, instancing in mega servers, home wreckers or easy entry?
I look at it like this: if you have a really fast car, take it to the racetrack. It's the best place to hammer around and have a good time. When you have a mega server, you're having it's this big ginormous thing where everybody can go really fast instead of just your one nice little racetrack. Servers.
Woo! Everyone wins.
The big mega server. I am a military background, so shoot, move, communicate. Like Poppy was saying, like being able to adjust to new things is fine. But this is one of those kind of tools that developers have to make, or it's a choice that the team makes based on population, based on networking, based on all sorts of nerdy stuff in the background. They're like, okay, we're going to do single servers. We're going to do a massive mega server. We're going to, however. But how it actually affects us is you have that, I think it was Elder Scrolls when I played it, they have like some big one whatever server. I'm not sure if I got the right game. It's one of those crappy games that I don't
It's a campaign,
anymore.
Yeah.
Okay.
They have a mega server, yeah.
It's a mega server. And you can do your best to get to know people and build that community, but it's so large that I feel like you're literally on this, the Autobahn, if you will, something that works well with that analogy, and you can't really connect that with people. The best thing you're going to do is try to find people within your time zone, in my opinion. When you have a server community, it's a little bit easier, because you can go to a forum, and you can see who's in your vicinity, who's around you, who else is driving on your track to catch up with them, and then narrow it down based upon time zones and things like that. Instead of being just a lone voice spamming like, hey, we'd like to make friends in North America who just happen to be playing here on this mega server when it's on. It's counterproductive to me. Yes, you can, as Poppy said, you can work around it and adapt to it. I just, for the sake of community, I really like the games that have a server that you can be on, and I will make mention to Guild Wars 2. One of the reasons that I stepped out of Guild Wars 2 was that very fact itself. We did World vs. World. We were in a shard, a realm, a server, whatever, and you were allowed to just transfer. And after so many days and weeks of transfer, these people are transferring here, it meant nothing. And I realized that was really important when people can just join and leave. And I was even like, dude, make it a financial thing. Like if you want to switch from one to another, that you have to pay or no. When I realized that server identity was important, or that anybody could just come and go as they wanted to, I was no longer interested. I don't know if that's still the same now, but I do know that it was a big decision for the organization I was with at the time, because why stay here when we can just go somewhere else? Like this server is dying, or this server is winning, and the next week they're going to go up against these people, so we should all try to transfer there. What was the point,
Let me say this, it changes a hell of a lot by now. I mean, you know how expensive 100 gems are nowadays? They're like 11 gold. And to transfer to my server at this moment for World. It takes like 1,600 gems or like that. You
That's
need to
good.
pay a hell lot of gold nowadays to get into another server. So at that part with World, the loyalty has become very important. So yeah, a lot of servers that are coming to us, they are paying so much gold to join us.
Yeah.
That's wow. That's
Oh,
something
the
big.
gold! Gold sink. I
Indeed.
think Tasha pretty much summed up our last 15 minutes of ramble, and she was saying mega servers they're a nightmare for any sort of organization, but they're absolutely fantastic for casual integration.
Absolutely.
Which ironically is very similar to what I was saying earlier about your whole having your 1% at the top of a server and then realizing that your casuals are going to be your lifeblood coming in. It's a fine balance between social activity and organized achievement of goals. It is a real nightmare for communities. Personally, my point of view is that I prefer a more traditional server infrastructure where you can have those limitations, you can create conflicts between different servers or different factions, or even PvE races. At least you have that level of familiarity, you have that level of identity, and you can build on that. You can build to bring people in. You can have people feel proud of their server. It's difficult to feel proud of something if you don't know who half the people are, and that
Yep.
relates very much back to something that we were saying. Now, unlike Josie, I'm going to stick to the 1 hour time limit, and as we're coming up on it, we're going to move off of this. Military, I'm learning something off them. That's my disembodied hand. What I do with that, well, I'll keep that between me and my disembodied hands. It also talks. Alright, so what I'd like to do is I'd like to round this up with some whiskey and a couple of questions. I'd like to ask both Poppy and Blank two things. I'd like to ask them, what is the one piece of advice you could give to a server community to encourage a good environment for your server, to build a good community? And what's the one piece of advice you would give to new players looking to find a good server community? So I'm going to go with Poppy first for consistency. What is the one piece of advice you give to a server to build a good community, and what is the one piece of advice you give a new player looking for a server to launch themselves into?
For a good community, I would say keep having fun with each other, and that's what it's all about in the end. Just keep having fun with each other, and all the other stuff come later on. They will come with time. It goes with the flow, and keep enjoying it all the time you have. And for the new players, I would like to say, guys, try to find a spot for yourself that you feel welcome in, and where you also will be able to enjoy it. I mean, that's also where you keep going in, keep enjoying the game, and yeah, find your path in the game itself, and have respect, of course, for everybody else and everybody's opinions, of course.
Play nice, kids. Blank, what is your piece of advice for the new player looking for a server community? What is your piece of advice for a server to build a good community?
I will throw, as a good Viking King does, I throw the challenge to the leadership of a server community. It's your job to get out there. It's your job to support those who support you in the events you do. Friday night fights for WildStar would have never happened on our server if there weren't other organizations who wanted to opt in and show up and play. You don't necessarily have to have both just a casual hardcore aspect. Sometimes it can be just a social community event. So for those that are the guild leaders, the recruitment managers, whatever you may be in your organization, it's up to you to find the time, find others that want to do that, and to reach out and make it happen. It doesn't matter if how many people actually show up. It matters that it's there, and you will find a lot more fun social stuff come out of it than you'll realize. We used to have, and we're working on getting back. We used to have Google Hangout Fridays just for fun. Get people in little groups, randomly click in, and sit around and hang out and BS about your week. And it wasn't about being in the game. It was nothing about other than being social and having fun. And to those people that are new, what I will say to you is do your research, do your due diligence. Don't just, oh, these people do this. Oh, goodness. Make sure that you do your research. I kind of take the organizations that I've joined in the past very seriously. And sometimes you join a community, a guild, and after you get to see under the hood, you realize maybe it doesn't run the way you thought it did, or it's just not for you. But make sure that before you take the time to apply or just join, that they fit you. You wouldn't just go to a store and just buy something randomly. This isn't just donuts on the shelf. Some people do that. But,
although, may I add, donuts are great.
But when you're going to buy something that you're going to have for a while, whether it's let's say a new monitor, a new mouse, a car, anything that has some significance that you're going to use over and over, you should do your research. It's the same with a server community. It's the same with any organization. Research them, learn them, get to know them, check it out, take it for a test drive, if you will, and in the end, hopefully you find a good fit first time, and then if you don't get frustrated, just do it again. Eventually you'll land someplace soft and pillowy that works for you.
So you're saying be a server hopper. Be the scummy server hopper that everyone hates.
I'm saying
don't
settle for less and take the time to find what you deserve. Boom.
That's that one. Write it down.
I am.
Post it back to yourself in the future. Don't forget it. That's a blankism there. What I'd like to say, just to follow that up, is it's very similar to what Blank said. For new players, do your research. Now, when we say do your research, look at game forums. In-game forums will generally tend to have server delimitations on them, or server communities advertising on them. Look at your unofficial forums as well. You tend to get a more honest approach from guilds and server communities on unofficial forums that are not as heavily moderated, shall we say. Look at guild lists as well. You get an idea of what sort of players populate these sort of servers, and look out for the big guilds. Tend to be the ones that will run a lot of server events. They're not always the ones that run server events, but they do tend to have more people, which inherently means they'll have more events running to keep those people interested. So keep it. Oh my God! Turn it off.
Keep going. Ignore it. Keep moments.
So yes, do your research. Let that train of thought just be completely run over there. For server communities looking to build great servers, the thing you've got to understand is that you've got to strike a balance. You're gonna have to, like Blank said, have a good, solid group of people who are willing to build your server. That being having events for those top, that top XYZ% that want to do stuff and achieve goals, and make sure you've got that communication open with them and be organized and know what you're doing. But really know at the end of the day that the people that are going to keep your server alive, they're going to be the guys that are still coming in fresh, that are coming into the game new, that are just looking for a social experience. Don't block out casual players just because they're casual or just because they want a social experience. Bring them into the server, help them, let them know what you're about. Have those open lines of communication, be it a server TeamSpeak, a server forum, an advertisement for your server alliance. Have that front end, let people know that you're there, because if you don't, then what's the point? People aren't going to join your server, they're not going to integrate into the community, they're not going to know who any of the guilds are. Make sure you've got that forward-facing communication. Don't be afraid to come onto a podcast, make a total idiot of yourself just so you can say, I'm from Desolation Server, come to us. And on that note, we'll get moving over towards the Kumbaya. So every week we normally go through some special events. That's not events for special people like Blank, but actual events of note. That was my disembodied hand there.
So professional. So professional.
Oh, look, she's the one that's not professional.
Phone. There's even worse than a phone.
I can't turn it off. Not without at least 2 flights of stairs. I'm gonna pay for that tonight. I am actually gonna pay for that tonight. So bad. I think I'm not gonna sleep tonight. So Blank, why don't you take one of the notable community events that we've got coming up, and maybe if I survive this next 5 minutes, I'll pick one as well.
All right. We have a charity event from Lort Nation, Ladies of the Round Table.
Oh, I was gonna ask if you remember what that stood for there, because totally prepped.
What is this? What is that? Oh, terrible link. Ignore that. That's not a thing. Pretend that didn't happen. Let's try this again.
Oh, no prepped.
That link right there will send you to the keeping. Oh my God! I just want to.
Keeping the Toms.
Ladies of the Round Table. They are working on setting up. From what I understand, it is a. Where is it? It's STEM. I didn't want to get the wrong thing. Science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. They're working on doing like scholarship sort of program, and this is basically how they're trying to generate some exposure for it. And not only are they looking for financial donations, but they're also looking for educators all over the United States currently that are willing to help out and be recipients of this eventually in the future. So their page is right there. I think this is pretty cool to set this sort of a thing up. It's a little different than we see for charity things, in the fact that it's a scholarship that will be going to folks to make people smarter, better. I think it's really cool. It's definitely nifty. So the link is right there for you guys to check it out. And there's like a challenge thing they're doing. I guess I will let Edward explain if you'd like, sir.
About the challenge?
Yes, sir. I will do links for you.
Really, does that mean you've not prepped at all for this? Then have you?
No, I looked at
Read
it.
the show notes.
But listen, I don't play Gears of War 3, so I was like, oh, that's interesting. Who plays good? I don't know anybody. I know nobody that plays it. So.
Right.
What?
So if you like playing Gears of War 3, go to this link. You can win stuff and help charity. Do that because Blank can't prep for shit. Anyway, as it's fair shot. This is why I'm never getting to host again. Oh, we've also got another link for you. Our great friends at Healing Over Time are starting to get themselves organised for their next event, and they are looking for us to ask any.
I wish you had just said organised. I wish you had just said they were starting to get organised. It sounded like you were just going to say they're starting to get organised. Leave it there. I know Tasha's in chat. It would have been great. I think that's why Poppy's laughing too, because I started laughing at the same time. Please, no, continue. Go ahead. Please fill out this survey. It's super time-consuming.
Fill us with your wisdom.
Indeed.
Yeah,
yes.
We ran over time too.
By 5 whole minutes. Not 25, 5. And mostly because you can't prep.
I prepped all night and all day and half on
Really?
Sunday.
Sleeping does not count as prep. Anyway, as we were saying, Healing Over Time would like any of you that would like to help out a fantastic charity to go to that link in the chat, fill it out, and give them your information. Raise a chalice, raise a drink. I only have coffee. But thank you all for coming to... Oh dear. Thank you all for coming to the Campfire. I'm never going to get through this. I have newfound respect for Pseudo at this point. That's the worrying thing. Yes, indeed. All right, everyone. That's it for tonight. We're cutting. If you have any opinions, like Blank can't prep for shit, send it to voice@MMOBuff.TV. If you would like to appear on a campfire, if you have a community, then feel free to get in touch with us on Facebook or on Twitter. You can find us at MMOBuff. And again, if you have any scenarios you'd like us to cover, give us an email at voice@MMOBuff.TV. I'm now supposed to wave my hands like this, apparently, so that the producer will know to cut the show. So at any moment, we're going to be cut off. So thank you, everyone, for coming out. This is so not going to happen.